my friends, welcome back. Today I would like to speak about the PMP certification and why is it important and what does PMP stand for. It stands for Project Management Professional, and it's considered one of the most reputed certifications in project management. Why is it important for you and for me? Well, for me because I work in project management currently, and for you because ultimately our life is one big project and we should understand how to manage it and how to go through its phases while, let's say, succeeding the best way possible. So hopefully you'll find it useful. The way I organize this video is the following. First, I'll speak about my PMP study journey, then the mindset of this exam. Then I will touch upon PMP questions, and then ultimately I'll discuss why the PMP exam is seen as a challenging one. So my PMP study journey. About a month ago, I passed the PMP exam with flying colors. The Pareto principle was at work here. The rest of life helped as well. So I committed to this exam, to trying to pass the exam, and basically did all the administrative bit in August, but then life happened and work was very intense, and I did not start studying until October. I was studying mostly on weekends and late in the evenings when the kids were asleep, and obviously before I even started, I wanted to establish a baseline. So I went through some tests and I was not scoring above 60%. Now, the passing score for the PMP is not disclosed, but it's something between somewhere around 60 and 70%. And I did not want to take any chances. And most importantly, I really wanted to understand the important aspects and the terminology of project management that I might have been missing. Even though I had a project management course in university, and some of it was actually based on one of the PMBOKs. I wanted to, let's say, refresh my knowledge and have it, let's say, as up to date as possible, since I'm working in an agile framework. So after studying for about 1.5 months, October, November, in November I started going through mock tests in the evenings with a lovely friend, and I wasn't able to score on average anywhere much above 60%, or 65% at best. My inner conservative said there is no point in this. Then the observer stopped all thoughts spiraling and said it would crack the mindset for the PMP exam, which turned out to be not as obvious as it might seem, right? This mindset for the PMP, just hardly 10% of total effort invested for the PMP preparation produced 80% of the results or more. That's why I spoke about the Pareto principle in previous videos. It is important to understand the mindset and to go to the essence. Now, once I figured out the mindset, that happened in December, and conveniently I got sick, so I had plenty of time to think about it. I guess our bodies are sometimes wiser than we are when we are in a lot of tension, and the end of the year with all its deadlines and so on, and all the jumping priorities coming at us, the body says no, that's enough, and we just have to lie down with a high fever, and all we can do really is think. So that's the time when I cracked the PMP mindset. So I think it was time well spent. Again, this is an argument against the Pareto principle. Yeah, those 20% that produce 80% of the results. Is getting sick part of those 20% that produce 80% of the results, or the other way around? For me, it was the first one. So after figuring out the mindset in December, while productively being sick, I started studying with renewed energy at the beginning of January. And I basically set myself, my inner critic, my inner conservative, set up a deadline, 2 weeks to pass the exam, because I didn't really have that much time work-wise to invest more than 2 weeks of evenings and weekends again. So it actually took me 2 weeks to score between 85 and 90% on full mock tests. I moved incrementally from 65% to 68, then 72, 78, 85, and ultimately closer to 90%. And how did this happen? I was always trying to remember to shift between those 4 different personalities, 4 different mindsets that PMP uses to solve questions. And I was also trying to close the gaps in my knowledge every time I stumbled upon a question which dealt with unfamiliar notions or terminology or concepts were difficult for me to apply. And for that, I want to thank all the talented PMP YouTubers who post videos for free. The key thing to know in regarding the mindset of PMP is that there are multiple good answers and you need to choose the best answer among the correct answers. So the elimination technique is not always working, although you can use it, but you need to be mindful that there are usually more than one right answers among the choices you are given. Now, what is the mindset of an examination, of any exam or test you take? The key to understanding how to pass an exam or certification is basically understanding the mindset of the examinators, basically what they want to hear from you. I went through over 20 certifications, some of them highly technical in the past, and usually I don't have a problem identifying the mindset. The mindset represents one of the 6 personalities, right? It's either the conservative in you or the optimist in you, and that's the one you're channeling when you're answering questions. However, PMP uses 4 personalities, switching between these 4 mindsets. So basically it took me 2 months to figure that one out. A bit dense, am I not? So 4 personality aspects are present in you during the PMP, and you should channel them as much as you can. The observer, the actor, the optimist, and the conservative. They are sort of opposing each other. And you need to use all of these while uniting these aspects basically around concepts like collaboration, servant leadership, efficient stakeholder engagement, and so on. So let me take them one by one. The observer, whom you're seeing in front of you, is the one who analyzes, reviews, and observes always before taking action. Think cost-benefit analysis, root cause analysis. The project manager is basically a system thinker, always analyzing while taking into account all 6 project constraints: cost, time, schedule, and then the other 3, which are equally important: quality, resources, and risks. The caveat here for the observer: you have to take a decision and be proactive, even while using your observer's hat. You, as a project manager, took the decision to observe first before taking action. So be aware of that. This is a smooth transition into actor. Well, maybe not so smooth. I'm sorry. I'm still learning the ropes of this illustration business. Please forgive me. So we are not talking about the actor in the movie actor sense, even though I have the funny cinema illustration in the background. I mean actor in the sense that you are the one who acts rather than the one who observes. So the observer and the actor are 2 opposing personalities. A project manager basically needs to act rather than observe in specific situations. You must be an end-to-end owner, a collaborator, a proactive decision maker. This is the PMP mindset. Communicate directly and as soon as possible. Another aspect that you will be using quite a lot more than the others, I would say, during the PMP, is the conservative, cautious side of you. The critical thinker, ethical, always following the rules, following the schedule, resources, cost, risk management plans, the quality management plans, and so on. For example, when it comes to high risk, high impact procurement, contract. The project manager must take approval from leadership first, obviously because of the high impact, high risk. Another example. If some of your team members are moved to a high priority project by the sponsor, what do? Start searching for other resources? No. First, you always submit a change request to evaluate the impact and discuss the next steps. So you are bringing in the conservative side of you, and then you're bringing in by submitting the change request, and then you're bringing in your observer to evaluate the impact, observe, analyze, and figure out what to do next. And now the optimist, with a positive mindset that every problem has a solution, that conflict can be productive, that training an employee can impact their performance positively, that a negative risk can be turned into an opportunity. Decision-making relying on participation, collaboration of teams and stakeholders rather than one-on-ones as a general but not specific technique. So you basically rely on the goodness of people, on their integrity, and on the fact that whenever you put them together, they will deliver an outcome, a decision, and so on. This is all fine and dandy, but applying it in complex scenario-based questions within a minute of time can be tricky. And that's the amount of time you roughly have, a bit more than a minute for each question. Especially since we are oscillating between these aspects of our personality, between agile as well, hybrid, and waterfall approaches in questions. What does this mean? The agile approach uses the optimist and the actor predominantly, while the predictive approach often uses the conservative and the observer. However, this is not a rule of thumb. It all depends on the situation. Going through the PMP preparation for me was a bit like going through a bumpy relationship, alternatively pleasant and unpleasant. These four personalities inside me were often quarreling while trying to take the lead on the best answer. And I think you'll experience that as well once you go through the questions, the mock questions. So trying to read the mindset of the person or the PMP body of knowledge you are in a relationship with is not always easy, is it? Especially for the conservative in us, the cautious side of us. Now onto the PMP questions. How do they look like? There are different types of questions. The most common ones are sequence or prioritizing type of questions. What will you do next? Another type, and that's the one employing your critical thinking, right? Another type of question is a behavioral question. What is the best thing for you to do? And that's usually the one who analyzes, the one who observes, the observer in you who will be able to best answer those questions. And then there are preventive type of questions. Again, the conservative whom you see in front of you is usually best in answering these questions. What could you have done to avoid or prevent this? That's how the question would be framed. So don't focus on solving the issue, but preventing it altogether from happening. The answer will be different depending on whether you focus on preventing or resolving an issue. What is important is also to give a specific answer to a specific question or problem and not to go too broadly about the answer. There will be some answers which will be good, but they will not specifically answer the issue, the problem in the scenario-based question. Another important aspect about questions is to basically remove the noise in the PMP questions. Why are these scenario-based questions having noise, or let's say completely useless information that is given? Is it given on purpose just to confuse us and then those options or terms appear in the answers? No, not really. And this is the part which actually made me respect the PMP exam quite a lot, and this is where the bumpy relationship resolved itself, let's say. I realized that these scenario-based questions, a bit dense again, come from life. Life is complex. It has plenty of variables, and some of it is noise, some of it is important. So it's crucial for you to figure out what is important in the scenario and what is not as a project manager. Another topic which I wanted to cover, which very much relates to what I just spoke about, is why is the PMP exam seen as a challenging one? Because it requires understanding of all processes, artifacts, methods of the initiating, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing a project, a phase, a procurement, as well as all concepts and artifacts behind Agile. That's called jnana in Sanskrit, knowledge. However, knowledge is useless in project management if one doesn't know how to apply it. In order to transform jnana, dry knowledge, into vijnana, realized knowledge, the more or less more exact translation would be knowledge that we apply in practice through specific scenarios. The PMP is basically employing our critical thinking and decision making in most of these scenario-based questions. So you basically have 1 minute to laser focus on the important aspects of the scenario question, apply your critical thinking, and take a decision. And another little detail here. Passing the PMP exam is basically being a good translator from concept to application, from concept to its synonyms, slightly changed. It is not about memorizing, but about understanding concepts, tools, and terminology so that you can identify them in answers. And I'll give you a couple of examples here. Whenever you see scope baseline, you should think scope statement plus work breakdown structure plus WBS dictionary plus work packages. Whenever you see a question about figuring out processes, an illustration of a flow chart pops up in your brain. Whenever you see scope statement, that's the scope description plus the deliverables plus the acceptance criteria for them. Ultimately, the PMP is all about understanding project management concepts so that you can apply them in your professional and everyday life if you are imaginative and an out-of-the-box thinker, pun intended, with the box behind me. Some footnotes for this video for the very end. You've probably noticed I use the observer and the conservative the most in this video. That's because, in my humble opinion, PMP channels these two aspects of our personality the most. Now, as to the phrase I used at the very beginning, pass with flying colors. Google says the idiom to pass with flying colors means to excel in a test, exam, or any endeavor, typically by achieving a very high or outstanding score or result. I am sorry for misleading you in terms of the phrase illustration. This phrase originated in the Navy when ships would return victorious with their flags flying in the wind, whereas I illustrated it with airplanes. It fits somewhat better as far as transportation goes in this century.